What's up, guys? It's been a while, but welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you guys about Season of Discovery and why I think Season of Discovery is not dead and it's just taking a nap. So I wrote down a ton of stuff that I want to talk about in this video. So I'm going to basically be going through my notes the entire time. We're going to jump over to my PC. I'm going to talk about it over there, and I really want to know what you guys think of some of the stuff that I'm about to say, so please feel free to drop some comments down below. And if you haven't caught one yet, we've been doing the Tavern Talk podcast, usually on Tuesday nights at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube, live. We hang out, we have some drinks, and we talk about all things World of Warcraft Classic, mainly SOD being the topic of discussion as of late. So join us there if you have more stuff to talk about, but again, drop some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about what I'm about to say. So we're going to kind of go through each phase up to this point, right? We're in phase 3 right now. We're going to start with phase 1, phase 2, and then end up kind of where we are right now and where we would like to be going into phase 4 in Season of Discovery. So like I said before, there's a few things that more than a few things that I would like to go over in this video. And let's start off with phase 1. Phase 1 Season of Discovery was like this magical thing, right? Because it was new and we really didn't know what to expect. We were all super hyped when it was announced at BlizzCon. That's actually what birthed this channel for me. I was like, I am so into this. I'm excited. I've been wanting to make a second channel for a really long time. I love WoW Classic. Let's do it. And that's how this started. For phase 1, like, the things we got to remember is that it was extremely accessible compared to phase 2 and phase 3, right? It wasn't a major time sink to hit the max level and start experiencing like the endgame raid or the BGs, right? BFD and doing BGs. We were locked at rank 3 for PvP, which was kind of nice. And then after a couple of weeks, most people could just log in and pug the raid on a bunch of different characters. It took like, what, 30 minutes? And it was just a 10-player experience. So it really was extremely accessible and easy to do on multiple characters, even if you weren't in a guild. So you didn't need to be living in phase 1 outside of your real life, like living in the game to be able to do this raid. Now, if you think about it, most people probably leveled like 5+ characters up to level 25 and enjoyed it because finding the runes was new, right? And acquiring runes felt so good and seemed extremely well designed. They gave you like a lot of class fantasy thrown in there with your runes in phase 1. And on top of that, there were just tons of other players out in the world leveling and grouping up to acquire those runes, which felt really, really good. You know, all of these people were experiencing that, 1 to 25 grind in the classic era universe in ways that they never were able to do before with their chosen class, right? Everyone's class felt a little bit different, unless you're like me and played warrior as your main, but we'll get into that later. So it's because of this that, if you guys remember, back in phase 1, most people during that phase were saying like, this is literally the best thing Blizzard's done in a long time, and it felt so similar to like that 2004, 2005 vibe of, when most of these players experienced World of Warcraft for the first time. Now, if we fast forward a little bit to phase 2, right, we're going from 25 to 40, and that's a little bit more of a time sink, but it still felt pretty fun and enjoyable because we're in phase 1 for what felt like literally forever. I think it was honestly like 9 or 10 weeks or somewhere around there, but it felt like forever because people leveled, like I said, 5+ characters up to level 25. So everyone was just super hyped to be out in the world again and leveling or, spamming Scarlet Monastery, and then obviously going on to acquire all their runes once they hit level 40. We had the new PvP event, we had, Stranglethorn was awesome. On launch, it was an absolute disaster with the lag and the layering issues, but once it was addressed, it actually was a lot of fun, and we looked forward to doing it, at least in my guild. But in my opinion, this is like kind of where we started to see some drop-off in phase 2, and that was mainly due to a couple things, right? Gnomer was released as the 10-player raid, which in my opinion was a great choice for a raid. Not a big fan of the Gnomeregan dungeon, but the raid was actually a lot of fun. It was designed really well, it had some fun mechanics, but sadly for a lot of people that weren't part of a guild or just wanted to, raid log and jump into some pugs and clear it, it wasn't super easy though for most pugs to full clear. This led to people becoming obsessed with parses and meta chasing to the extent of really killing the game for a lot of solo players out there who wanted to jump into the raid and experience the content. If they weren't playing a meta class or didn't have great logs, this really kind of sucked for them. And aside from that, I think the leveling in this phase took a massive punch to the gut due to the meta way to level being to literally spam Scarlet Monastery until your eyes were bleeding and your head felt like it was going to explode. Now, I know we had the introduction of the sleeping bag questline and student fodders and all that, and that was great, but really the meta way to level being to spam the same dungeon on repeat for 8 to 10 hours straight really, is not fun. And I know the classic player base is always going to take the path of least resistance, the fastest way to get there. But in my opinion, that's up to the devs to kind of stop that from happening. And if you think about it, we also had massive gold sinks tied to like the crafted gear early on that were honestly just, if you really think about it, completely unattainable for your average player. Like there is no way Johnny from down the block was farming that amount of gold in their 2 hours that they got to play every night outside of working their full-time job. It just wasn't happening, right? So that was a massive thing that they, eventually fixed. But early on, it was a major issue. And then let's touch a little bit on the rune acquisition in this phase. The rune acquisition didn't feel quite as interesting or thought out as it did in phase 1. In phase 1, like I said before, there was almost this like overwhelming sense of class fantasy tied to most of your runes, and most of the rune acquisition quest lines or tasks were pretty unique to your class and rune combination, right? And in phase 2, we saw a lot of this being shared between multiple classes, so there was a little bit less uniqueness, I guess, to the design of the rune acquisition in this phase. Now, while all of this, in my opinion, makes sense in an MMO focused on the leveling and the journey and not really the destination, that's where I feel like this problem was kind of born, right? It seemed like in phase 1, Blizzard's vision for SOD was about recreating that like magical and incredible feeling of leveling a character for the first time in WoW back when it originally launched. And for a lot of people, phase 1 Season of Discovery really did feel like that. I know for me, it did. It seemed like their vision kind of shifted quite a bit to the end game of the phase instead of the journey, with players doing extremely repetitive things, like I said, like spamming Scarlet Monastery and rushing their way to level 40 and then just opening up Wowhead, reading some guides, and running around grabbing their runes like a chore instead of entertainment and content. It took a lot out of that adventure, exploration, and discovery that Season of Discovery Phase 1 initially had. Now that, coupled with the gatekeeping for average players by sweatier players and a raid that wasn't a complete snooze fest for pugs to steamroll, really kind of changed the way that SOD felt to play for a lot of people. Now if we fast forward even further to Phase 3, what the absolute hell happened here? Blizzard's original vision yet again seemed like it shifted even further towards blasting to level cap and getting into the raid. They introduced Nightmare Incursions, which were completely broken on launch, with people going from 40 to 50 in a few hours and acquiring over 1,000 gold, literally within like 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 hours. 5 to 8 hours, 1,000 gold, 40 to 50. Like, that's just not classic WoW. I don't care how accelerated we want it. That's not normal and not good game design. This was then nerfed, so everyone who didn't get to experience that within the first 24 hours could not make that amount of gold in the same amount of time and couldn't level quite as fast. But in my opinion, that's not the main issue with Nightmare Incursions. Nightmare Incursions, in general, completely ruined Phase 3 from the start. It kept everyone out of the open world, turned into a complete PvP bloodbath that was extremely frustrating for like 90% of people. And once again, put the main focus of this phase on blasting to the endgame as fast as possible, doing literal repetitive loops on your mount, just handing in and picking up quests on repeat for 8+ hours straight to just hit level cap. And then once you hit level cap, you could just buy your Warden Rep PvP gear and be geared enough to jump into the raid for some, but not for everyone. Now the raid, which is now Sunken Temple, moved from a 10-player experience to a 20-player experience. And it moved from a 3-day lockout to a 7-day lockout, and definitely was quite a bit harder than Nomer at the start, which in my opinion probably discouraged a lot of players, to my knowledge, and it still proves to be rough, for most unorganized pugs, right? Even to this day, mostly through this phase. Now, this has led to probably lots of guilds disbanding. Others have been clearing it since week 1, just get bored because it's really the only content to do outside of farming rank 7 in PvP, which you were able to basically farm in Phase 2, so you didn't even have to do that in Phase 3 if you planned it right. And then once you have that done, you're really just raid logging, getting your world buffs, and waiting for the weekly reset, which is now a 7-day timer. Now that's all in good if you want to go level alts during that time, right? But try leveling another character and acquiring your runes, because it doesn't feel great when most of the world is empty due to nightmare incursions. So really good luck trying to level that priest from level 1 and acquire all of your runes from phase 1 and 2. Yeah, seriously, good luck. Now, I don't want to make this a rant. I still love Season of Discovery, right? So all of this, in my opinion, has led to a lot of the player base quitting or getting on this weird, like, SOD hate train, which I'm not jumping on. And to be completely honest, nobody is forcing anybody to play Season of Discovery. A lot of it, in my opinion, is just burnout. And at the end of the day, Season of Discovery is a great addition to our sub fee and didn't replace anything. It just added another seasonal version of Classic WoW for people to play and enjoy. It didn't take anything away. Stepping away from it for a bit or taking a break is literally good, and it's completely okay. And if you start having like negative feelings about a game that you're playing and it's making it not fun for you, literally just take a break. That's what this video is all about, right? I'm excited for Phase 4. I'm super pumped. I really did enjoy Season of Discovery, mainly because I have an awesome guild filled with great people and we've been having a great time. Now, is there tons of content? No. As of late, I really have been kind of just raid logging. But I'm waiting for Phase 4, I'm playing a little bit of the Kata pre-patch, I'm having a good time. You just gotta remember that this is a game and it's supposed to be fun, and if you're not having fun, take a break. You can always choose to come back later or next phase or whenever you want. Mid-phase, end of phase, the end of Season of Discovery, literally doesn't matter as long as you're having fun, right? Now, all of that being said, I do want to reiterate that I still think that SOD is one of the best things that Blizzard has experimented with, and I still think Phase 4 could literally knock it out of the park if it's done right. Phase 4 could potentially be the best phase we've seen in SOD to date, right? And yes, I mean, it could be better than Phase 1, but only if it's done right. Since the main focus of Phase 4 will be about getting to that endgame content, which we already know there's a ton of, even without the addition of new raids. You know, a few minor changes really could make Phase 4 an absolute blast. Just simple things, right? Like maybe making Phase 1, 2, and 3 runes easily obtainable from vendors, reputation, or dungeons. Maybe not opening the raid until around 10 plus days after the phase launches, so that players get to actually experience leveling and don't feel the need to blast 260 as quick as possible in like the most not fun and repetitive way ever. Like, let people enjoy the leveling, let people play the game, let people level their professions while they're leveling. Opening the raid the day that the phase launches and then giving people 3 days to hit level cap and then the weekly reset happens is just not good in my opinion, and I was against it in this phase and in Phase 2. And I think it really would solve a lot of this burnout. Maybe they could potentially add some heroic or hard mode versions of even just some of the fights in the new raids with just cosmetic rewards or titles tied to them to appeal to the sweatier crowd and give them, you know, something a little bit harder to strive for and achieve. I don't see what's wrong with that. And then lastly, like maybe just some sort of content timeline, right? I know we got the roadmap earlier on in the year, but what about some sort of timeline that shows us when we're getting content dropped in this last phase, right? Are we going to be in Molten Core and Onyxia for 4 months or 2 months? We have no idea. Is everything going to be launched at the same time? Are we going to be able to hit 60 and go straight into Nax? Like, we really don't know what's going on. I have a feeling it's going to be, you know, Molten Core, Onyxia, and then maybe another 2 months we're going to get BWL. But that's, you know, we have to remember this is a seasonal server, and that could potentially make this season take a really long time. You know, they talked about Kata. We already have the entire timeline of Kata. We know that by this time next year, Kata's pretty much over already. But anyway, I mean, there's tons more that can be done to make SOD fun and enjoyable. I could literally go on for hours, but we do that literally almost every Tuesday night in the Tavern Talk podcast live right here on YouTube. So make sure you check that out if you haven't yet. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to kind of go over where we're at with Season of Discovery. There's such a SOD hate train going on right now. I'm like, I still love it. I still think it's a great thing. Yes, it's a little boring right now. There's not much content. Just log off and play something else. Come back and test out Phase 4 for a month. If you don't like it, you don't have to play. But there's no reason to really sit here and bash it. It's far from perfect, and things like the Nightmare Incursions are like the worst thing that I've ever seen added to COD so far since it came out. But you know what? There's room for error here. People make mistakes. Being a game dev is absolutely not easy. I am not one, but I could tell you right now that it is not an easy task to appeal to everyone, to please everyone, to make everyone happy. It's really not an easy thing, and I give Blizzard a lot of credit for trying out all these new things and doing just doing the best that they possibly can, right? There's a lot going on right now with Kata and Season of Discovery, and you also still have Classic Era and Hardcore and Self-Found Hardcore and Retail's new expansion coming this year. There's a lot of stuff coming out this year. So I say we just sit back, relax, go play another. It doesn't even have to be World of Warcraft. Play another game. Go play the finals or whatever you want to do. Play another game. Just take a break. Come back refreshed for Phase 4 if you do want to try it. And if you don't, that's okay too. You don't have to. But I just wanted to make this video because there is like an overwhelming amount of hate going on about COD right now. And I just think that it's a little bit exaggerated, and people need to really realize what this is, and just take a breather. Just relax. It's all going to be okay. And if you guys want to hang out with me live, twitch.tv/hammerdance. I stream every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Link in the description below. And if you guys are looking for a guild or even just a community, I have a Discord server. We're pretty big. We have a lot of fun. We do events and things like that. We're on Lone Wolf Alliance if you want to actually join our guild. You don't need to join our guild to be part of the community. So Discord link down in the description below. If you enjoy Season of Discovery or even just classic WoW in general, join the community. There's a ton of people in there that, we all really, really, truly love classic WoW. A lot of us are playing Kata and SOD, so big group of people to play with if you're looking for that. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.